Another day, another Seahawks trade then. Trevis Gipson is joining the Seahawks for a late round pick from the Jaguars, according to Ian Rappaport. Who is Trevis Gipson? He's a player who's played off the edge. He started his career with the Bears, had a 7-sack season in 2021. He was then moved on to the Titans and now the Jaguars. He signed with the Jaguars this year and he's gone to the Seahawks. So he's developed into a bit of a journeyman as his career has gone on. He's an edge rusher. It's more depth there. I think what you have to sort of look at this trade is, what does it mean for Chenna Nwosu? Does it mean that he's going to miss some time now because the Seahawks can ill afford that? Look what happened last year when he went out and that injury, which, I mean, if they lose him, such an important player, off the back of that particular play, which to have that in a preseason game, to have Wyatt Teller do that in a preseason game, really the Seahawks should be allowed to go over to Cleveland and kick him up the arse. Because, I mean, it's just pathetic to have that kind of... Why are they calling that kind of block in a preseason game? Why is he doing that? I mean, it's just not on, really. And if they have lost a key player for that kind of a situation, it's going to be massively frustrating. And it may well have provoked this move for Gibson. Hopefully not. But if it isn't because of that, you do wonder a little bit, well, why go and get Trevis Gipson when Jamie Sheriff has obviously shown what he has? Maybe it's just the flashes from Sheriff are not enough to get him onto the 53-man roster, that they want to use him as a practice squad player instead, and they want someone who's been there, done that. Maybe they see a bit of a skill set in Gibson that they don't really have in Sheriff, and he's just a bit too young. Jim Nagy's fan of the move. I've not tracked Gibson's career that closely since he was drafted, but Jim, friend of the blog, said, love this move. Trevis has talent to help this team. Nice move by the Hawks pro personnel department. So, look, I think if it is because Nwosu's out, then it's going to be frustrating, but at least they've been able to get some cheap depth. I think he's got a salary of about $1 million. So it's not going to break the bank or anything. They were never going to go out and get a big name, even if Nwosu was out for a while. So they've gone and covered for the fact that they might have an injury there. They've got a bit more depth. It is what it is. But like I say, it's just massively disappointing if a key player is going to be out because of that kind of block in a preseason game. Like, do it in week one, okay. But to do that in preseason, it was really, really poor from Wyatt Teller, and frankly, the league should probably act on that. I don't think it was right whatsoever. So that's one thing. What do you make of this news? What are your feelings on Trevis Gipson? Have you watched Trevis Gipson? Obviously, they traded Darrell Taylor for a late round pick last week, and now they've traded for Trevis Gipson. So let us know what you think about that. The other thing I wanted to talk about today, this is going to trigger some people. The Athletic have put out their quarterback tiers. Mike Sando does this every year. And what he does is he goes and speaks to people in the league. He says the panel consisted of 7 general managers, 8 head coaches, 12 coordinators, 12 executives, 8 assistant coaches, and 3 involved in coaching analytics. Each voter placed 30 veteran quarterbacks into 5 tiers from best tier 1 to worst tier 5. Quarterbacks then ranked by average vote and placed into tiers based on vote distribution. So this isn't just a list that Mike's cobbled together. This is from within the league. And it's interesting. I don't agree with the results of this, but I think it is perspective that needs to be heard at a time when some Seahawks fans are suggesting that Geno Smith should be extended before the season even begins. So in tier 1, you've got Patrick Mahomes first, Joe Burrow second. Obviously, they've just said, well, the injury is what it is last year. Burrow's obviously a quality player. Josh Allen's third. They're in the top tier, those 3 players. And then tier 2 is Lamar Jackson, Matt Stafford, Justin Herbert. And then this is the first bit that I kind of disagree with, that Aaron Rodgers is still in tier 2. He's 7th, ahead of CJ Stroud. Don't really get that. Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins, Jordan Love. They're all tier 2. It's a big tier 2. And again, like I said, I don't think you put Aaron Rodgers in tier 2 right now. I think he needs to have a year before you can put him 7th in this list. So I disagree with that. And then in tier 3, you have Tua 15th, Trevor Lawrence 16th, Kyler Murray 17th, Deshaun Watson 18th, Baker Mayfield 19th, Derek Carr tied 20th with Geno Smith. Now, he had 4 tier 2 votes out of all of the people, and 42 tier 3 votes and 4 tier 4 votes. So this was the analysis. Smith plateaued this year after surging into tier 3 following his breakout 2022 season. He was a consistent player for 2 years in a row as a starter, and he played good ball. An offensive coordinator who placed him in tier 2 said they didn't win because of their run game. They didn't win because of the defense. They won because the pass game was pretty consistent. And then there's another quote here. There are 2 guys in the 3 category who can be a little different. Defensive coach said Trevor Lawrence is one, and then Justin Fields can win the game because of his feet. Everybody else, not so much. I don't feel I'm going to lose a game because of Geno Smith. Over the past 2 seasons, Seattle ranked 12th in EPA per play on offense and 4th worst in EPA per play on defense. So it's not a great justification for why Geno Smith is as low as he is on the list. And I don't think he should be as low as he is on this list. I think it's an absolute travesty that he's below Derek Carr, who is quite frankly awful. And I think he should be ahead of Baker Mayfield. He should definitely be ahead of Deshaun Watson. Now, this is when I think it gets a little tricky, because I wouldn't have a problem with people putting Geno Smith at, say, ahead of Kirk Cousins and perhaps even ahead of Brock Purdy. But I don't think you could go much further than that. Like, I would not have him ahead of Tua, who led the league in passing last year, even though I'm not a huge Tua fan. I just think that Tua's perhaps had more production there. I think Kyler Murray's better. He's kind of better than people think, because there's a bit of stuff about the injuries, and I think people have just gone off Kyler Murray, but he is a good player. I think Jordan Love showed last year he's got some potential. Again, I think it's touch and go whether Jordan Love's better than Geno or not. I think Geno is better than Kirk Cousins, but it's borderline. They're both, when healthy, in that kind of ballpark. I don't think he's better than Jalen Hurts, who's been to a Super Bowl. Jared Goff, who should have been in the Super Bowl last year. Dak Prescott's been, productive. I think CJ Stroud should be ahead. So, and Aaron Rodgers one is a question mark. So I personally think Geno Smith should be higher than 20th and probably should be at least in the sort of 15 range. But I don't think he's much higher than that. But what this does sort of provide is a bit of perspective that whatever we think, the league does not think. Like those people, those GMs and executives and coaches and analysts and scouts, 42 of them had him in the tier that he was picked. 4 of them had him in tier 4. So we as a fan base may have this view of him, and maybe he's underrated. But people who will adamantly insist that he is needing a new contract probably need to keep that in mind. Because if the rest of the league's like, not really for me, where's the pressure to go and sign him? And this goes to a new deal. This goes back to last year when he actually hit free agency, and there was no real reported interest at all, apart from Seattle, and he was tentatively linked to the Bucs, but they were being more heavily linked to Baker Mayfield, and they've only really been linked to the Bucs because Dave Canales had gone there as offensive coordinator. There didn't seem to be any interest. And when Adam Schefter was touting the prospects of the value of a trade, as he was, quid pro quo Schefter on Twitter a few months ago, nothing emerged from that. So the league view on Geno seems to be pretty down. So if for no other reason, there's no pressure for the Seahawks to go on, extend his contract, give him a little pay rise, time down for longer. They can just sit on this deal. They can have him play out this season, see where we are in March. If he has an unbelievable year, you then go to the table next off-season, talk contract. That would be fair. But you don't do it now. And if they don't want to give him a new contract, he's tied for next year as well. So the Seahawks are in a very good position here. They are in a good position either just to keep Geno Smith on the deal, to move on from Geno Smith if they want to at the end of the season, or to extend him if they want to. And the team deserves to be in that position with the contract they've worked out, and they deserve to benefit from that. It doesn't always have to be geared towards the player in this instance, and I think that tier list speaks to that. Now, I suspect with Ryan Grubb and what the Seahawks are going to do this year, the Geno Smith will be higher on that tier list next year. But I do think that's perspective that needed to be heard today. That the league article from The Athletic, where, like I say, all of the GMs and the coaches and the scouts, they had him 20th with Derek Carr. So just something I wanted to bring to the table today. Anyway, let me know what you think about that. Let me know what you think about Trevis Gipson. SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more analysis. There's an article on there today about what I think about the 2025 draft and why I think, one, there's no obvious candidate to be the first overall pick next year, who I think is the best player in the 2025 NFL draft. It's a defensive lineman from Michigan. My thoughts on all of the names that you're seeing in these way too early mock drafts, I think there are some very overrated players in this draft class who are eligible for next year. So I talked about that. Talked about players that I'm more intrigued in than others, and a bit of chat on quarterbacks as well. So go and check that out. SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment. Till next time, bye for now.